He says read and welcome to the channel. This evening we are going to do something for our Valentine's Day, month of February, lovey-dovey content. That is a review and discussion of I'm in Love with Mothman by Page Lavoie. I hope, let's get that up there. Hopefully you can see that without too much of a glare on it. There you go. All right. Now let me give you the specs first. Let's see. I'm in Love with Mothman by Page Lavoie. The copyright is 2022 by Four Horsemen Publications in Dunedin, Florida. I never know how to pronounce that. I live here and I don't know how to pronounce it. All right. The artists, plural, are listed here on the publisher's page, and I'm going to read them off for you because I'm going to show you some of the pages in this thing. It's gorgeous, and I want to make sure that I give the artists their props. The cover background and text are by Jay Kotick. The cover character art is by Julia, I'm going to butcher her name, Julia Korpushova. Right? Then the typesetting and illustration are by Nikki Tantillo, and it was edited by S.L. Vargas. Right, so there's our cover again. Now I'm going to show you one of these pages in here. Hang on. Let me get to, oh, please. Here we go. Look at this. Isn't that nice? Look at the details in this book. And let me show you down there at the page number at the bottom. See those little details at the bottom? Those are the antenna for Mothman. Isn't that great? And we've got these little just like poofs of light going on in the like in the sky. Probably stars, right? With poofs of light, we've got stars in the sky. It's just very nicely done. There are these little tiny elements just throughout the book, little like dust spots, right? I believe those are to mirror the spots that are on Mothman, on his wings. I think, and I like that. I liked that little element going throughout the book. I thought that was a nice detail. It was very nicely done. All right, let's dive into this review. Let's see, we have 258 pages. It's written in first person present tense. Y'all know that kind of throws me for a loop, but it worked. It worked. Let me read the back cover for you. 22-year-old Heather is suffering from an epic case of burnout. So, just like any other young influencer, she abandons her social platforms, gathers up her best flowy dresses, and moves to a desolate cabin. Heather imagines spending her unplugged days traipsing through the woods and tending to her garden. However, her cottagecore fantasy is turned upside down when a wounded cryptid crashes into her roof and her heart. With no help from her internet followers and the local monster hunter growing suspicious, Heather's quiet life in the wilderness has suddenly become a little more complicated. To make matters worse, she thinks she might be falling in love with the brooding winged man in her living room. Yeah, okay. So this is a crazy, quirky romance novel, okay? Please keep that in mind as we go through this review. It is a quirky little thing. Our main character is Heather. Her mother was an influencer before her. So her mom did like blogging, then vlogging, then became an influencer. And Heather like grew up in that environment. She like grew up on the internet. Okay. Then we have Moth. We call him Moth. Moth is the creature that crashes into her roof, and she names him Moth, and he doesn't reject that name, so it sticks. And he's pretty much a lost soul. That's the way I would refer to him, a lost soul. We have a character named Chris. I consider him a dangerous predator, and we'll go into that. I think of him as the real monster. Then we have a couple of gals named Rosie and Clara. Rosie is Chris's sister. Then we have the mom. Yeah, okay. There's some other minor characters that kind of show up a little bit, but not. Those are our main characters that we're going to work with. So let me give you a little bit of a synopsis. Heather makes a comment online about this. It's Babely Beauty is the company that she's that sponsors her. She's an ambassador for Babely Beauty. And she makes a comment about like their new regimen that doesn't quite work with her skin right. But, hey, the other products they have are great. And that kind of blows up. All right. As it would. So it blows up and she's got to do damage control. And all of her followers are like, oh, you're an idiot to do that, right? Her followers boy, they sure do turn toxic fast. Okay. They're not nice people. Go figure. It's the internet, right? And there's an awful lot of trolls out there. It seems like all the trolls are her followers and they're mean to her. I mean, they say just nasty things about her weight, about she has a chronic illness. I don't know, they just nitpick at her, right? They nitpick at her relationships, at her weight, at her skincare, at her routines, her lighting. I mean, they just nitpick at her, right? And she's sick of it. She's burned out. She's done with it. She calls her mom and she's like, I just can't do this anymore. Her mother, this narcissistic woman, is like, suck it up, buttercup. This is a life that you chose, which it isn't. It was chosen for her, and you should be so lucky. You should be so content with what you have because so many other people don't have what you have. So her mother doesn't really help her. And Heather decides, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm done. I'm turning it off. I'm leaving. I'm going to buy a cabin in the woods and just go off the grid. And she does. That's what she does. She gives it all up. She buys this cabin. She goes to this cabin. She goes out there and she's totally unplugged. She's in her thing. It's dusty. She's like, I'll clean it up. There's like this plot where she's going to put in a garden. She's getting happy. And there's a general store nearby where Rosie works, and she meets Rosie and she's like, hey, you're a nice person. And they become friends. But Rosie has this brother who is a cretin. And the first time we meet him, he's weird. And he basically dares her to climb trees. He's like, you're a city girl, right? And you probably can't even climb a tree. He basically dares her to climb a tree. He basically pushes her into the arms of Mothman, is how I view this, because she goes back to her cabin after being at the general store. She goes back to her cabin and she climbs a tree. Like, she takes her book up there. She's going to read at the top of this tree, and she's up in the top of the branches, and she's very content when she realizes, I got to get back down out of this tree. And of course, she falls. She falls out of the tree. She's going to fall and die. She's going to break her neck. Something catches her. Something saves her and gets her back to her home. And it's Mothman. The Mothman catches her and saves her and gets her back to her porch. But she doesn't quite believe that some mysterious monster in the woods saved her. Something else had to have happened, right? She doesn't quite believe this. Well, so the next time that she meets or sees this moth creature is when there's this horrible storm happening, right? There's this big thunderstorm, lightning, everything, and something crashes into her roof. And she's like, what the heck? She goes outside, and there's something that has crashed onto the roof, like rolls off the roof and like falls in front of her. And it's this creature. And she recognizes, oh, this is the creature that helped me. And this creature is wounded, like his wing is all torn up. She's like, what do I do? So she drags him into her house and puts him on the couch and bandages up his wing and brings him some oatmeal. She tends to him and cares for him. She says, he's kind of hot, actually. What the heck? She feels sorry for him, and she nurses him back to health the best she can. And a budding romance begins, right? But the brother of Rosie, Chris, this weird cretin of a guy, he like shows up at the weirdest random times, and he figures out that something's not quite right here. And it becomes a mess. So he's a mess. And that's the romance novel right there. She falls in love with Mothman. Mothman falls in love with her. It's a romance. Okay. That's going to happen. But Chris is this weird predatory person. And we're going to talk about that. Here we go. Okay. So I want to talk about the characters. Synopsis is over. I want to talk about the characters. Her mother is just absolutely toxic. I could set this down. Her mother's just absolutely toxic. She's instead of listening to Heather or helping Heather, she tells her how other people struggle. Therefore, Heather should be thankful for what she has and just suck it up, right? She ghosts Heather when Heather moves out to the cabin. She stops answering her text messages. She's certainly not answering her phone. Okay, and she shows up without warning. Like one day she decides to just drive out there, and Heather is like trying to hide Mothman and answer the door because her mom is like on the front porch, and her mom is on the front porch with camera equipment. She would like to take some fancy pictures here in the woods, here at the cabin. And can she take some pictures of Heather too? And Heather's like, I don't want my picture online. And her mom tells her, oh, don't worry, we won't put these online. These are just for us. And of course her mother's lying. And her mother puts these pictures online. She starts putting these things up. And Heather's getting pinged with like messages because these trolls are saying, that Heather doesn't look so good. Heather's, dye job on her hair doesn't look great. And Heather's, obviously she's peeved, as she should be. She's like, Mom, I told you I didn't want to be online. And her mom's like, laughing it off, brushing it off. It's no big deal. This woman is just narcissistic and toxic, and she's still not listening to her daughter or her daughter's wants or needs. It was frustrating, very frustrating. Rosie, our character Rosie, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Let me just hack up along here. Sorry. Okay, Rosie, she's either clueless or complicit in trying to get Heather and her brother Chris together. I don't. It was weird because, and let me see, did I write down where it was? Yeah, page 95. Let's see if that's where that is. Okay. 94. 95. Yeah, here we go. And I'll show you the formatting too, because each of these pages, I've told you, has, all those little intricate designs and details, and it also has interesting formatting. Can you see how some of it is in like brackets? Okay, so we have a ping from her cell phone. Another ping from my phone pulls my attention away. It's Rosie, and this is in brackets. Rosie, should I invite Chris today? She's wanting to invite her brother to come to a luncheon at their house with Heather. And Heather doesn't want to do that. Heather, she's getting this weird vibe off of Chris. He's a weirdo, okay? And she says, let's see, I blush reading his name. Crap. There's no way I want to see him today. He's her brother, though. I need to make sure I'm not being a dick about it. So in brackets, it says me. Yeah, I mean, he's super sweet, but we just didn't really vibe. And then in brackets, it says, Rosie, I keep telling him a monster hunt isn't a suitable first date. I hide my phone from Moth as I type. It's not like he and I are anything. I don't even think he likes being around me. He'll be gone as soon as his wings are healed, and I'll be in this tiny cottage by myself again. That being said, I don't want him to know that just days ago I was stomping through the woods hunting him with his #1 fanboy. And then in brackets, it says me. I mean, everyone has their hobbies, I guess. I crinkle my nose, letting my hair fall forward. And then she does another text, me, just not really into the whole mysterious creature from the forest thing. Although she kind of sort of is, but not with Chris. Okay. So, but that's Rosie trying to get Heather and Chris together at this lunch. And I wish that Rosie didn't do that. I wish that Rosie had remained neutral in that, because Rosie's a nice enough gal, right? Rosie and Clara are this married couple, and they have a nice relationship. They've got their own farm. They've got these baby goats. Rosie takes care of the general store, and she's a nice enough gal. She does not stick up for Heather when the town bullies are being jackasses. But I think that's because Rosie needs to protect herself. I mean, she's got her own issues to protect herself from. There was some toxicity in this book. All right. Oh, and also Heather, after the lunch, Heather wants to do something to say thank you to Heather and Clara. So she makes this like wreath of flowers. And when she takes it to the general store, Rosie's reaction was kind of weird. It was a disappointment to me, because Rosie's reaction is, we're not looking for a third. Like these flowers were some kind of love overture or something, when they were a thank you gift. They were a gift. And instead of accepting it like a gift, Rosie's first gut reaction is something like nefarious or something. And that was weird. And maybe that's because her brother is, a twerp. So she's used to people being twerps. I don't know. But let's talk about her brother now. All right. In our character list, Chris is a problem. This guy, we first meet him on page 23. So let's look at page 23. Okay, so Heather has gone to the general store to pick up some items. She's got a couple jugs of water, some other stuff in her arms, so she's kind of, weighed down. Let me help you with that, a deep voice says, as one of the water jugs is suddenly taken from my hands. Oh, you're so sweet. I don't bother to protest. My items are literally about to topple from my grasp. When I tilt my head up to find the owner of the voice, I'm met with the most apple pie Americana face I've ever seen. He's blonde with blue eyes and a light splattering of freckles across his skin. My cheeks burn, and every possible greeting tumbles out of my head. Is everyone who lives in this town going to be impossibly cute? Staying in one of the vacation homes nearby? Just moved here, actually. The correction makes me feel a little smug. I got just like the cutest little cabin in the middle of the woods. His blue eyes seem to sparkle. All by yourself? There's something dangerous in his tone. I catch him eyeing my engagement ring-free finger. I shouldn't tell some random dude I live by myself in the middle of nowhere, but his dimpled smile disarms me. That is a red flag. Okay, to any single woman out there, that is a red flag. It was just weird. It caught me off guard too, Heather. All right, then on page 26. All right, where is it? Page 26. He does something else weird on page 26. Luckily, small talk swallows up any clumsy attempt to exchange phone numbers. Okay, she's leaving the general store, and he follows her out to her car. See, I leave with my armful of groceries, waving to the hot siblings. I'm just about done loading up my car when a deep voice makes my head turn. Hey, Heather, right? I turn my head and catch Chris jogging up to me in the parking lot. I have everything fine. Handsome or not, I don't want a literal stranger following me to my car. Still, before I have a chance to sidestep, he's standing in front of my trunk. In a practiced motion, I slip my keys between my fingers to use as a weapon. Here, he offers me a piece of paper. I hesitate before letting him place it in my unarmed hand. His calloused fingers brush up against my smooth skin for a moment too long. Rosie might not believe me, but there's something out there. Chris's eyes sparkle in the sunlight. Call me if you need anything. I don't know what it's like where you're from, but around here, but people around here look out for each other. Okay? All right. So he has basically given her a reason to fear her cabin in the woods, and now he's offering to take care of her in the cabin in the woods. So nice guy. There's another scene later where she's trying to get into her car, and he like blocks the door of her car so she can't get into her car. There's another scene. Look, oh, here we go. I made a list. He shows up at her house unannounced more than once. He makes her go wandering in the woods with him at dusk and then into dark. He blocks her access. Oh, there we go. He blocks her access to her car. He forces his way into her house after she's told him to leave. He climbs up on the roof to fix things after she's told him not to. He mocks her boyfriend. After Moth and her like hang out for a little while, Mothman can transform and look quite human-like, but he's still pretty tall and still has an antenna, but she can put a hat on him and some sunglasses on him, and they go out into public, and Chris sees them in public and like makes fun of Moth, makes fun of the height of this guy, makes fun of the fact that he looks kind of goth, right? Okay, so he mocks her boyfriend. He bullies her in front of his friends because she sets boundaries. She, in the general store one day, she tells him, no, you can't go hunting on my land. Like she doesn't want these guys chasing down and hunting and shooting the Mothman, right? And that's what they're after. They're after wild game and Mothman. And she doesn't want that happening. So she tells him, no, you cannot hunt on my land. And he makes fun of her and mocks her because she set these boundaries. Let's see. And then he goes ahead and he trespasses on her land to hunt. And then, yes, this does culminate in him kidnapping her, tying her to a chair and holding her at gunpoint. Yeah. Chris is a predator. He is a narcissistic predator. He's a problem. And in fact, on page 263, we have book club questions, which I think is cool. I think it's very cool that she has book club questions at the end. But one of the questions is, do you feel like Chris deserves a redemptive arc? No. No, I don't. No, I really do not. Some people are just cretins. Some people need to go to jail to be rehabilitated there. Some narcissists are not going to not be narcissists in the future. Chris is a problem. He does not need to go on some redemptive arc and have some girlfriend be endangered by him in the future. No. Sandy's opinion, no. Okay. Then the last character we need to talk about is Moth. Moth, who is not the monster in this story. Moth, who's just brooding and misunderstood. He is the beast in Beauty and the Beast. Okay? Yeah. He even has books in his lair. Okay? Yeah. So Moth, he doesn't speak at first. He is kind of brooding, right? Well, he's injured and he's in her home and he's a little nervous about that. And he is attracted to Heather. Okay? He doesn't want to be attracted to Heather because he is viewed as a monster. And he figures she'll be afraid of him one of these days, right? Yeah. Let's see. He doesn't remember who he is. at first. There is a point in the narrative where he starts to remember, and I didn't see how that happened. Like, but we're seeing the story from Heather's point of view. So when Moth goes off into the woods and he's by himself, we're not seeing any internal monologue from him because we're in Heather's point of view. We're not going to see his internal monologue. So when he comes back and he says to her, you know, I'm remembering something. I was in this royal family at one time in this like alternate reality, right? In this alternate universe, he was in a royal family. He thinks he did something wrong to be exiled here to this time and place in Earth. And he's this moth creature here, but he can transform to be more human-like here. He can shapeshift. Yeah. That's all the notes I have here, you guys. That's all the notes I have. It was, I don't want to give away like how they decide they're in love. I don't want to give away how there are some spicy scenes in here too. I should warn folks about that. There are some spicy love scenes going on. If spicy loud sex with monsters is not your jam, there's a couple scenes in here you'll want to skim. It was a little weird. You know, I had purchased this book so that I could bring you the content for Valentine's Day content and then gift this book to a friend of mine. That friend of mine is a married man. I am now concerned. I cannot give this book to a married man because the spicy hot sex scenes are spicy hot sex scenes. And I am totally uncomfortable handing this to him. I might hand this to his wife. I think when I see them in July, I will say, hi, this is for you instead. It is inscribed to your husband. Please ignore that. Because I'm totally uncomfortable handing this to a guy. But the love story is cute and moves along until there's like hot, crazy monster sex. There you go. It's still a cute story. It's still a cute love story, even with the spicy scenes to skim. Chris is a cretin. There you go. Did I give you guys enough about the book? You can ask me questions in the comment field below. There is a follow-up to this. This one is Mothman in Love Book 1. I'm in love with Mothman. And then the second one, it says it right here in the back. No, it doesn't. There's somewhere where it says that the next book is engaged to Mothman. I'm engaged to Mothman. Hang on, what does it say? The follow-up is Heather and Moth will return in I'm Engaged to Mothman. Stay tuned for a Meet the Parents You Won't Forget. Yeah, I can imagine. Meet the parents. If her mom cares, right? There you go. I can recommend it for a fun, crazy, quirky romance this February. You guys, thumbs up for fun, quirky, crazy romances with Mothman. Please subscribe to the channel. Please click the bell notification icon so you are notified each time I do crazy, quirky reviews.